day everyone, my name is Bon Angelo Sibolidoy from DSED2A. For today's video, I'm going to discuss about the integrated solid waste management. But first, what is integrated solid waste management? Integrated solid waste management refers to the strategic approach to sustainable development of solid wastes, covering all sources and all aspects, covering generation, segregation, transfer, sorting, treatment, recovery, and disposal in an integrated manner. Integrated solid waste management has 4 components, including source reduction, recycling and composting, waste transportation, and landfill. Having a comprehensive waste management system for efficient waste collection, transportation, and systematic waste disposal, together with activities to reduce waste management generation and increase waste recycling.
Solid waste are any discarded or abandoned materials. Solid waste can be solid, liquid, semi-solid, or containerized gaseous material. These materials are disposed of. It is discharged, deposited, injected, or dumped, spilled, leaked, or placed into or on any land or water so that such material or any constituent thereof may enter the environment or be emitted into the air or discharged into groundwater or surface water. Waste can be toxic or not. And another meaning of solid waste is the sources of solid waste include residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial activities. Certain types of waste that cause immediate danger to exposed individuals or environments are classified as hazardous. These are discussed in the article Hazardous Waste Management. All non-hazardous solid waste from a community that requires collection and transport to a processing or disposal site is called refuse or municipal solid waste or MSW. Refuse includes garbage and rubbish. Garbage is mostly decomposable food waste. Rubbish is mostly dry material such as glass, paper, cloth, or wood. Garbage is highly putrescible or decomposable, whereas rubbish is not. Trash is rubbish that includes bulky items such as old refrigerators, couches, or large tree stumps. Trash requires special collection and handling. Categories of solid waste. Letter A. Household waste, generally classified as municipal waste, residential, commercial, institutional. So next is industrial waste. Industrial waste defined as waste generated by manufacturing or industrial processes. The types of industrial waste generated include cafeteria garbage, dirt and gravel, masonry and concrete, scrap metals, trash, oil, solvents, chemicals, wheatgrass and trees, wood and scrap lumber, and similar waste. And next is C. Agricultural waste. Agricultural waste is a waste produced as a result of various agricultural operations. It includes manure and other waste from farms, poultry houses, and slaughterhouses. Harvest waste, fertilizer, runoff from fields, pesticides that enter into water, air, or soils, and silt drained from fields. And last, we have biomedical waste or hospital waste. Biomedical waste or hospital waste is any kind of waste containing infectious or potentially infectious materials. It may also include waste associated with the generation of biomedical waste that visually appears to be of medical or laboratory origin. Example, packaging, unused bandage, infusion kits, and etc. As well as research laboratory, waste containing biomolecules or organisms that are mainly restricted from environmental release. As detailed below, discarded sharps are considered biomedical waste whether they are contaminated or not, due to the possibility of being contaminated with blood and their propensity to cause injury were not properly contained and disposed. Biomedical waste is a type of biowaste. And last, we have also classification of solid waste. Letter A, organic waste, or as well as known kitchen waste, vegetable, flowers, leaves, and fruits. And we have also toxic waste such as old medicines, paints, chemical, bulb spray, cans and fertilizer, and pesticide containers, batteries, shoe polish. And we have last, recyclable, paper, glass, metals, plastic, demolition debris, and waste tires. And letter D, soiled hospital waste such as cloth, soiled with blood and other body fluids.
Hazardous waste is a waste with properties that make it dangerous or capable of having a harmful effect on human health or the environment. There are two types of hazardous waste. One is designated waste. It is one that is specifically listed as a hazardous. Number two is characteristic waste. It is one that exhibits any one of characteristic of ignitability, corrosiveness, reactivity, and toxicity. Ignitability is something that's flammable. Example, alcohol, gas, and waste oil. Corrosiveness is something that can rust or decompose. Example is battery acid and rust removers. Reactivity is something that's explosive. Example is lithium sulfur and batteries. And toxicity is something that's poisonous. Example is chemical waste, radioactive waste, and medical waste. Sources of hazardous waste. Number 1 is byproducts of industrial and domestic activities. Number 2 is mining sites and mineral processing sites. Number 3 is agricultural facilities and research laboratories. Number 4 is all sources that discharge liquid, solid, and gas. Number 5 is agricultural land and agro-industry. Number 6 is contaminated sites and building materials. Examples of common hazardous waste. Number 1, waste oil fluent. Number 2, solvent and thinners. Number 3, toxic and flammable paint waste. Number 4, chlorinated solvent and heavy metals. Number 5 is percolates and peroxides. Number 6, radioactive waste. 4 categories of hazardous waste. Number 1 is listed waste that Environmental Protection Agency has determined are hazardous. The F-list. The F-list are waste from common manufacturing or industrial processes. The K-list are waste from specific industries such as petroleum refining or pesticides manufacturing. And the P and U list are commercial chemical products being discarded in their unused form. Number 2 is characteristic waste. That waste do not meet any listings in listed waste, but it is exhibit. Ignitability, it's either liquid or gas that invites fire. Corrosivity, extreme acidity. Reactivity, violent chemical change that can be explosive. And toxicity is toxic compounds like arsenic. Number 3, universal waste. The term universal waste by Environmental Protection Agency because these hazardous waste are generated in a wide variety of settings by a vast community. The examples of universal waste are batteries, pesticides, mercury-containing equipment like thermostat, and fluorescent bulbs. Number 4 is mixed waste. These are waste that contain both radioactive and hazardous components. Hazardous waste recycling, treatment, storage, and disposal. Waste has been associated with human society from prehistory to today, and no doubt will continue for the future. So, as a human, We have to manage waste properly to preserve the planet for the coming generations. Many hazardous waste can be recycled safely and effectively, while the other waste will be treated and disposed of in landfills or incinerators. Recycling hazardous waste has a variety of benefits, including reducing the consumption of raw materials and the volume of waste materials that must be treated and disposed. Environmental Protection Agency developed a regulatory definition and the process identify specific substances known to be hazardous and provide objective criteria for including other materials in the hazardous waste universe. This identification process can be very complex, so environmental encourage the generator of waste to approach the issue using the series of questions described. In order for a material to be classified as a hazardous waste, it must be first a solid waste. Therefore, the first step of the hazardous waste identification process is determining if a material is a solid waste. The second step in this process examine whether or not a waste is specifically excluded from regulation as a solid waste or hazardous waste. Once a generator determines that their waste meets the identification of a solid waste, it's important to note that some facilities petition Environmental Protection Agency to delist their waste from RCRA Subtitle C regulations.
Good day everyone, I am Jamaica R. Asuncion. Now let's talk about methods of waste disposal and management. Solid waste management. Garbage arising from human or animal activities that is abandoned as unwanted and useless is referred as solid waste. Generally, it is generated from industrial, residential, and commercial activities in a given area and may be handled in a variety of ways, such as open burning, dumping into sea, sanitary landfills, incineration, composting, plowing in fields, hog feeding, grinding, and discharging into sewers. Landfills are the most common method of waste disposal. It is also called sanitary landfills. However, waste can be categorized based on materials such as paper, plastic, glass, metal, and organic waste. Categorization may also be based on hazard potential, including radioactive, flammable, infectious, toxic, or non-toxic waste. One reason that sorting material is important is that it helps ensure that the MMVC program only collects materials that can be recycled. It is wasteful and dangerous to transport materials that cannot be processed at our facilities. MMVC program is a recycling company. Multi-Material VC is a non-profit industry-led and financed organization that assumes responsibility for managing residential packaging and printed paper recycling on behalf of industry in May 2014. Solid waste disposal must be managed systematically to ensure environmental best practices. Solid waste disposal and management is a critical aspect of environmental hygiene, and it needs to be incorporated into environmental planning. Solid waste disposal and management includes planning, administrative, financial, engineering, and legal function. It is typically the job of the generator, subject to local, national, and even international authorities. So, solid waste management is important because its primary goal is reducing and eliminating adverse impacts of waste materials on human health and the environment to support economic development and superior quality of life. This is to be done in the most efficient manner possible to keep costs low and prevent waste build-up. Solid waste disposal management is usually referred to the process of collecting and treating solid waste. It provides solutions for recycling items that do not belong to garbage or trash. Solid waste management can be described as how solid waste can be changed and used as a valuable resources. Solid waste management is the control of generation, storage, collection, transfer and transport, processing and disposal of solid waste in accordance to the principles of the public health, economy, conservation, engineering, aesthetic and other conservation considerations. Improper disposal of municipal solid waste can create unsanitary conditions, and this condition in turn lead to pollution of the environment. Diseases can be spread by rodents and insects. The tasks of solid waste disposal management are complex technical challenges. They can also pose a wide variety of economic, administrative, and social problems that must be changed and solved. Role of solid waste management. A. Protect environmental health. Environmental health and protection refers to protection against environmental factors that may adversely impact human health or the ecological balances essential to long-term human health and environmental quality, whether in the natural or human-made environment. B. Promote quality of urban health. According to the World Health Organization, urbanization is one of the leading global trends of the 21st century that has a significant impact on health. While cities can bring many challenges, they can also bring opportunities for better health, cleaner environment, and climate action. Strong urban policies must match those challenges, since health is essential for fostering good urban livelihoods. Building a productive workforce, creating resilient and vibrant communities, enabling mobility, promoting social interaction, and protect vulnerable population. And C. Support the efficiency and productivity of the economy. Increased productivity means greater output from the same amount of input. From a broader perspective, increased productivity increases the power of an economy through driving economic growth and satisfying more human needs with the same resources. B. They generate employment and income. Functional elements of waste management. A. Waste generation. All solid or semi-solid material considered as no sufficient value. This encompasses any activities involved in identifying materials that are no longer usable and are either gathered for systematic disposal or thrown away. B. On-site handling, storage, and processing. Handling like placing in containers before collection. This relates to activities that the point of waste generation, which facilitate easier collection. For example, waste bins are placed at sites that generate sufficient waste. C. Collection, obtained by the collection services. A crucial phase of waste management. This includes activities such as placing waste collection bins, collecting waste from those bins, and accumulating trash in the location where the collection vehicles are empty. Although the collection phase involves transportation, this is typically not the main stage of waste transportation. D. Transfer and transport means facilities used to effect the transfer of waste from one location to transportation. This is typically not the main stage of waste transportation. D. Transfer and transport means facilities used to effect the transfer of waste from one location to another. There are activities that involve in moving waste from the local waste collection. Locations to the regional waste disposal site in large waste transport vehicles. E. Processing and recovery. Separation of solid waste, chemical, biological, etc. followed by recycling. This refers to the facilities, equipment, and techniques employed to recover reusable or recyclable materials from the waste stream and to improve the effectiveness of other functional elements of waste management. F. Disposal. Sanitary landfills is the most common for municipal waste. This is the final stage of waste management. It involves the activities aimed at the systematic disposal of waste materials in locations such as landfills or waste to energy facilities. Common practices on waste processing. Solid waste open burning. Solid waste open burning is not the perfect method in the present scenario. All open burning poses risk to the environment and public health. Smoke pollutes the air we breathe. Ash pollutes our soil, groundwater, lakes, rivers, and streams. Burning anything in the outdoors can cause a wildfire. B. Sea dumping process. This sea dumping process can be carried out only in coastal cities. This is very costly procedure and not environmental friendly. The disadvantage of sea dumping process is it can disrupt ocean life and ecosystem. According to Marine Insight, dumping involves the depositing all the waste materials from factories and industries, tankers and ships, and sewerage waste materials into the oceans and seas. Solid waste sanitary landfills. Solid waste sanitary landfills process is simple, clean, and effective. In this procedure, layers are compressed with some mechanical equipment and covered with earth leveled and compacted. The main purpose of sanitary landfill is to ensure waste is safe by reducing the harm from accumulated waste and allowing safe decomposition. Besides, it involves well-designed engineering methods to protect the environment from contamination by solid or liquid waste. Incineration method. Incineration method is suitable for combustible refuse. High operation costs and construction are involved in this procedure. This method would be suited in crowded cities where sites for landfilling are not available. It can be used to reduce the volume of waste for landfilling. Incineration is a waste treatment process that involves the combustion of organic substances contained in waste materials. Incineration and other high-temperature waste treatment systems are described as thermal treatment. Incineration of waste materials converts the waste into ash, flue gas, and heat. Composting process. Composting process is similar to sanitary landfilling and it is popular in developing countries. Decomposable organic matter is separated and composted in this procedure. Yields are stable and products and good soil condition. It can be used as a base for fertilizers. Composting is an aerobic method, meaning that it requires the presence of air of decomposing organic solids. It can therefore be used to recycle organic material. The process involves the composition of organic material into a humus-like material known as compost, which is a good fertilizer for plants. There are two methods have been used in this process. Number one is the open withdrawal composting. Open-air withdraw composting uses naturally occurring microbes which feed on organic material or garden waste and require oxygen. By feeding on the garden waste, the microbes break down the material and turn it into compost. Withdraw composting is the most cost-effective composting alternative to manage global waste. And number 2 is the mechanical composting. Mechanical composting is an efficient method of composting that uses electricity to create the heat required and rotation of the contents required to produce semi-composted waste, literally within a 24-hour period. And F, disposal by flinging into the fields. Disposal by flinging into the fields are not commonly used. These disposal are not environment friendly in general. And disposal by hog feeding. Disposal by hog feeding is the general procedure in India. Garbage disposal into sewers, including BOD and PSS, increases by 20 to 30%. Refuse is ground well in grinders and then fed into sewers. Last, the salvaging procedure. Materials such as metal, paper, glass, rugs, certain types of plastic, and so on can be salvaged, recycled, and reused. And for the conclusion, following these procedures or processes can help to manage solid waste disposal.
So now let's proceed to waste hierarchy. Waste hierarchy is a tool used in the evaluation of process that protect the environment alongside resources and energy consumption to most favorable to lesser favorable actions. The waste hierarchy is a set of priorities for the efficient use of resources. This underpins the objectives of the Waste Avoidance and Resource Recovery Act of 2001. The hierarchy establishes preferred program priorities based on sustainability. To be sustainable, waste management cannot be solved only with technical end-of-pipe solutions, and an integrated approach is necessary. The waste management hierarchy indicates an order of preference for action to reduce and manage waste, and is usually presented diagrammatically in the form of a pyramid. The hierarchy captures the progression of a material or product through successive stages of waste management. It represents the latter part of the life cycle for each product. So now let's see the diagram of solid waste management. So to the most favored option to the less favored. So the most favored option is the prevention, next minimization, the reuse, recycling, energy recovery, and the least favored option is the disposal. The aim of waste hierarchy is to extract the maximum practical benefits from products and to generate the minimum amount of waste. Let's tackle again the waste hierarchy. So first is the avoiding and reducing waste. So the highest priority is the avoiding and reducing the generation of waste. Encourages the community, industry, and government to reduce the amount of virgin materials extracted and used. The goals are: first, selecting items with the least packaging or that require the fewest resources to produce. Next is avoiding disposable goods or single-use materials. Third one is buying products that are recycled, recyclable, repairable, refillable, reusable, or biodegradable. And the last one is using leftover food rather than throwing it away. Next is recovering resources. So this maximizes options for reuse, recycling, reprocessing, and energy recovery. Where avoiding and reducing waste is not possible, the next most preferred option is to reuse materials without further processing, avoiding the cost of energy and other resources required for recycling. For example, many household and industrial items can be repaired, reused, sold, or donated to charities. third one is reuse without further processing and recycling. Processing waste materials to make the same or different products. So it keeps materials in the productive economy and benefits the environment by decreasing the need for new materials and waste absorptions. The fourth one is recycle or recover for energy, and instead require treatment to stabilize them and minimize their environmental or health impacts. Last one is treatment or disposal. It recognizes that some types of waste, such as hazardous chemicals, cannot be safely recycled, and direct treatment or disposal is the most appropriate management option. So these are the benefits of waste hierarchy. First, it can help prevent emissions of greenhouse gases. Second, it reduces the amount of pollutants. Third, it saves energy. Fourth, it conserves resources. Fifth, create jobs and opportunities. And last one is stimulate the development of green technologies.
Medical waste. Medical waste is any kind of waste that contains infectious materials or materials that potentially infectious. This definition includes waste generated by healthcare facilities like physicians' offices, hospitals, dental practices, laboratories, medical research facilities, and veterinary clinics. These are waste generated during treatment, diagnosis, research are also called biomedical waste. So, pag sinabi po natin na hospital waste o medical waste, ito yung mga bagay o kagamitan sa ospital na nakikita natin na tinatapon na o kailangan nang itapon. So, meron tayong characteristic of hospital waste. 75 to 90% dito is non-hazardous or general waste. 10 to 15% hazardous. Bodily fluids like blood or other contaminants. Culture dishes, glassware, bandages, gloves, discarded sharps like needles or scalpel, swab, and tissues. Classification of biomedical waste. Meron tayong sharps, infectious waste, radioactive, pathological, pharmaceuticals, chemical, and genotoxic waste. Pag sinabi nating sharp, ito yung mga bagay o kagamitan na matatalim na pwedeng makasugat sa ating balat. Tulad nga ng needle, scalpel, lancet, broken glass, razors, ampoules, staples, wire, and trocars. Pag sinabi naman po natin na infectious waste, ito naman yung mga bagay na galing sa mga pasyente na pwedeng makahawa sa iba kung sila ay may sakit. Tulad nga ng bandages, swabs, tissues, at iba pa. Radioactive. Pag sinabi naman natin radioactive, ito yung mga bagay o equipment na ginagamit sa mga treatment or cancer therapies. So, tulad nito is yung mga glassware na nilagyan na ng lab liquid. Pathological waste. So, ito yung mga body parts na in-examine sa mga laboratories. Tulad nga nito is yung body parts nga, blood liquid, pharmaceuticals. These groupings include all unused, expired, and or contaminant vaccine and drugs. It also encompasses antibiotics, injectables, and pills. So, pag sinabi naman po natin na pharmaceuticals, ito naman yung mga gamot na expired na o hindi na pwedeng gamitin. Next is chemical. These are disinfectants, solvents used for laboratory purposes, batteries, and heavy metals from medical equipment, such as mercury from broken thermometer. So, ayun, pag sinabi naman po natin na chemical waste, ito yung uri siya ng solid, liquid, or gas waste material na kung hindi ito madidispose ng maayos, pwede itong makapahamak ng tao at makasira sa paligid natin. So, example din neto is yung mercury na galing sa thermometer.
So, pagka-genotoxic waste naman, example nito is yung vomit, urine, and feces na galing sa mga pasyente. Sources of biomedical waste, Healthcare Waste Management Manual 2012. So, hospital waste, clinic like medical, veterinary, dental, laboratories and research centers, biomedical labs, blood bank, animal research and testing, drug manufacturers, institutions of medical, nursing homes, drug rehabilitation centers, mortuary and autopsy centers, ambulance and emergency care, home treatments like dialysis, insulin injections, cosmetic ear piercing, and tattoo parlors. Waste Management Manual. So, yung management of healthcare ay sumusunod sa Clean Air Act of 1999 and Ecological Solid Waste Management of 2000. So, pinag-aralan nila ng mga hazardous waste tulad nga ng mga infectious agents, genotoxic, contains toxic or hazardous chemical or pharmaceutical, radioactive, sharps, ay pwedeng makasira ng kapaligiran at magresulta ng mga sakit sa tao. Sa medical waste treatment methods naman, meron tayong incineration, autoclaving, microwaving, chemical, and biological. Sa incineration o yung pagsusunog, before 1997 na higit 90% ng mga infectious waste ay dinidispose sa pamamagitan ng pagsunog nito. Ito pa rin ay nananatiling paraan sa mga pathological waste tulad ng body parts and recognizable tissues. Autoclaving naman, ito naman yung mga i-sterilize ng mga biohazard o mga non-infectious waste. Pagkatapos nito i-sterilize, pwede na siyang i-dispose kasama ng mga ibang mga solid waste. Microwaving. Ang microwaving ay isa pang paraan ng pagtatapon ng mga hazardous waste. Yung mga non-hazardous waste ay inalalagay sa isang microwave with high power point equipment. Is yung chemical. Ang ilang mga uri ng mga chemical waste ay pwedeng man-neutralize sa paglalagay ng mga reactive chemical. Biological. Ang pamamaraan nito ay ginagamit sa mga biomedical waste, uses of enzymes, para man-neutralize yung mga hazardous waste and infectious organisms.